All right, welcome back to Lyrics to Go. We're back at it. This is part 2 of my look at Company Flow's classic Indelible.
Did you see what I did there?
Funcrusher Plus album, which came out 25 years ago this week, July 22nd, 1997. My goodness, where has the time gone? I was only years old at the time, so you can imagine it's nostalgia time for me. Like I said in part 1, this album represents a ruggedly independent ethos, and they even dedicate one song entirely to graphing culture, graffiti, b-boys who would go out on the town and paint, tag, murals, walls, and especially back in the day, trains. And keep in mind, this album came out right as the Giuliani era was getting going. So what we associate with Giuliani is, cleaning up the city, meaning that, when I first visited New York in the mid 90s, it was still covered in graffiti everywhere. I don't remember if I saw too much graffiti on the outside or inside of trains, but there's definitely some. These days, you don't see it at all. It's become street art. It's become respectable in sort of circumscribed locations. But 70s and 80s, graffiti was an underground art. It was a badge of pride. It was a way you staked your claim to being a real active member of the hip hop community, which was always about way more than just beats and rhymes. So this Big Just track, Lune TNS, which I think he produced himself, the one track on the album that LP didn't do production on, it's basically an entire list of graffiti artists and their handles, their street names. Lune TNS is the title of the song, and that was Big Just's name when he was a graffiti artist. And he's just almost just listing them off. Stan, Is the Wiz, K56, TKA.
The elevated train line of the J line and the A. Where I first encountered the likes of Baby 168. Stan, Is the Wiz, K56, TKA. Kingpin throw us away back then was Ed, who I saw ripping a lot up on the inside of E. As I progressed to the 7-yard early Johnny B. King, Officer 147 CIA. Fuzz, Comic, Blade, Ajax, and Angel Duster.
And then there's a cool little 1-2 combo of the song 89.9 Detrimental and Vital Nerve. They use the same beat, and the first one, 89.9 Detrimental, is a recording of a radio freestyle the group did. I'm not sure on what show. It might have been the Stretch and Bobbito show, which was the one that first gave them prominent radio play and had them in the studio many times to do freestyles. And it's a very short little freestyle, at least this clip of it is, but it's got some great lines. Got my name up in your mouth like cock or gingivitis, when every rhyme becomes the new official new blueprint for wannabe writers. That's great. I think he repeats that line almost word for word later on the album. And I love this. I don't mind you talking shit, just keep it in the first person. Like, speak for yourself, speak about yourself if you're going to diss someone. Think realistically. If you diss me, could you handle my rebuttal version? Then again, if you speak my name, it only means you recognize my status. I'll flip the script, use your little diss as a promotional apparatus. And what's funny about that is they have a song that I think came out afterwards called Linda Tripp, just sort of a one-off single, or a song at least, that did exactly this to some kid who I think was dissing them on the internet, but he was trying to cozy up to them as well. I'm not sure. You can just check out the song.
You little lying motherfucker. You know you kissed my ass, and then you tried to change up the past. Who fell into their own hitty kitty kid when they lied to themselves? Self-abuse by selling lies, self-destruction. Captain Kirk, Spock, and Lieutenant Uhura on the away team. Your Henson Leibowitz, the sacrificial lamb for the episode.
Vital Nerve is one of the most popular and indelible tracks on this album. It's got an incredible hook that sounds like nothing else.
Soon you'll see, as I flow fluently to frequently, another MC will drop off the face of this earth for what it's worth.
I've been the nastiest one since birth. The whole song is just rife with great battle rap punchlines. Doc Jekyll, when I burn your paragraph down to a haiku. So Tootsie roll the fuck back to your seat because I don't like you. Once again, as they do throughout this entire album, LP stakes claim to his independence and him being true to true hip hop principles. With hip hop guidelines, I state, I never liked authority. When sales control stats, I place no faith in the majority. That is a credo that all of us creative artists could take to heart. more classic LP lyricism.
Stay fresh than Ziploc, money plot hatcher. How the fuck you gonna bring a go-kart to the Grand Prix? Hee laughter, headed for irreconcilable disaster. I'ma protect mine like a Japanese fighting sticks master.
That relentless multisyllabic flow, and also the injection of little editorial commentary about what he just said. How are you going to bring a go-kart to the Grand Prix? Hee laughter. That is very LP. And even to this day, you can hear it in his Run the Jewels verses. You can often hear him commenting on his own stuff. There's a slight ironic level of remove, but it doesn't keep him from being passionately in your face and really meaning what he's saying. He's not being a hipster about it, but he is too cool for school and too smart for your average, mainstream radio hip hop listener. And he knows it. The song The Fire in Which You Burn is undoubtedly the quintessential Company Flow track, and it's the posse cut on this album. It features Company Flow, Big Just and LP, plus Jay Treads, who we heard from on Collude Intrude earlier in the album, and Breeze Bruin from the group Juggernauts. And that's the whole Indelible MCs. And, I have to pick out some of my favorites from each of these verses because this is a top to bottom banger. Every one of these rappers comes with just incredibly inventive flows. It's so much fun. They're having a lot of fun together. You can see it. I believe there's a video still on YouTube of them performing this one live together at like some record store or some sort of live event. And you can really get the camaraderie and just the unique chemistry these guys had. I mean, first of all, let's talk about this LP beat. You've never heard anything like this. This might be the strangest hip hop beat to have ever been released by 1997. This off-kilter boom, and just look at the way Breeze Bruin starts his verse off. It's a masterful display of layered lyrics, which we're going to hear throughout this song from every single one of these four MCs.
Fucking with a nigga like myself, you learn fair. Laverne's gear shows your record, so unless the host butt naked, use a loser. Decrepit should've kept it to your lonesome, but you like, look everybody, I'm a silly microphone crumb.
Well, just on the sonic level, in terms of the phonetics, Learn's Fear, Laverne's Gear, shows your record, butt naked, use a loser. Decrepit, just throwing in another extra internal rhyme in the next line, should have kept it to your lonesome, silly microphone crumb. So throwing all kinds of very advanced rhyming at you in all kinds of interesting places. Now, what's he talking about? Well, you learn fear when you mess with someone like me. Laverne's Gear shows your record. I had to look this one up. Laverne on the show Laverne and Shirley
Schlemiel, Schlemazel, Hassenbeff Incorporated.
We're gonna do it.
would often wear clothes that had an L stitched on them. Okay, so Laverne's Gear shows your record. So unless the hoe's butt naked, or sorry, Laverne, for that casual misogynistic reference, unless the hoe's butt naked, use a loser. So unless Laverne is not wearing her L festooned gear, then your record is showing you are catching an L. Really clever stuff. And then you should have kept it to your lonesome, but you're like, look, everybody, I'm a silly microphone crumb. Just taunting. This is like the smart kids in the class bullying you. It's quite something. And then, you know, we have my favorite verse on this song. It's one of my favorite hip hop verses of all time. Once again, Jay Treads. I wish we, you know, had more music from this guy. I don't even know what he's up to these days. Incredible cadence, incredible wit. I love his voice too. I think I just want to play the entire verse for you.
Relentless poetic rhyme never ceases infinity. Forever smoking the mic, lyric contact got me open naturally higher. No need to pass the Dutchie. I'm the living circle, dot. Nobody can touch me. At my post, the most high exalted, mind blower. When I rap it is strictly, I can't believe he just said that shit. Material cruise. Who can't think straight sober? My flow's over your head. I enjoy the aerial view. Focus from the bird's eye. In my scenario of dominance, defeating weaklings. When bum rushing like dirty communists, racing my iron curtain, revealing my words the gospel. No apples or giant serpents. The enlightened apostle J. Trez. I lace heads like tennis players, top seated. Not needed to cause a racket or front the menace. My words speak for themselves, so feel me. Cause on the mic I've got more presence than attendance in the class of schizophrenics. Here. Drink to that thing of raps. Intoxicating, got you craving my living proof. Mixture of speech and rhyme. So up from just the flow, but past the liquor it's over. Henny deadly when twisted, I get open like Venetian blind.
What can you even say? Every single line is Perfect. Relentless poetic rhyme never ceases infinity. It's almost redundant. Yeah, he's saying in a million different ways that it's nonstop rhyming, full contact action here. I'm the living circle, circle, dot, dot, nobody can touch me. I think that's a Cooties reference.
Circle, circle, dot, dot. Now you have a cootie shot.
I mentioned this line early already in part one. When I rap, it's strictly, I can't believe he just said that shit material. It's true. My flow's over your head. I enjoy the aerial view. Focus from the bird's eye in my scenario of dominance, defeating weaklings. We're bum Russian like dirty communists. More double entendres. J-treads. I lace heads like tennis players top seated, not meaning to cause a racket. And then this line, my favorite hip hop line of all time, I think. My words speak for themselves, so feel me, because on the mic, I got more presence than attendance and a class of schizophrenics here, here. Now, just a little disclaimer. I know, and probably Jay Treads knows by this point, that, you know, schizophrenia is not actually the same thing as dual personality. Schizophrenia is a very different kind of dissociative disorder, but, you know, that's often been a misapplied use of that word, but that's the sense in which he's using it. On the mic, I've got more presence than attendance in a class of schizophrenics. First of all, just listen to the assonance, the internal rhyming there, how good it sounds, how fun it is to actually say it. I got more presence than attendance in a class of schizophrenics here, here. But let's break that down. On the mic, I've got more presence, right? Mic presence, stage presence. I got more presence than attendance in a class of schizophrenics. Well, now presence is actually a homonym, homophone. Presence, CE, presence, TS, not as in gifts, but presence, present, right? I'm here, I'm present. So there's more of those than attendance in a class of schizophrenics, because in this use of the word schizophrenic, everybody would have at least two personalities. So there'd be a lot of presence. And then he follows it up with here, here, meaning, you know, congratulations or bravo in the archaic sense, but also here, here. LP is incredible here. This is one of his greatest verses.
Company flow, the fire in which you burn slow. I remain indelible. J Trash juggernaut. To touch the flame, you are not. I remain indelible. Check, 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 check. I the dark digital slash for what I'm worth, alongside four terrible surgeons who blur common perspectives on what and how to get lit. That flaming Molotov shit. Unstoppable object hits unmovable wall and space split.
Unstoppable object hits immovable wall and space split, which is a reference to physics, right? What happens when an unstoppable object hits an immovable wall? Well, he's positing that what happens is, you know, space and time itself, the fabric of reality, actually splits open. And so there's an example of the kind of just interdimensional boast that you're going to get from Company Flow. It's even beyond like Wu-Tang martial arts kind of language. We are talking here in like quantum physics vocabulary. This couplet is incredible. The five factions get giganti the fuck up and get touched. The group hugs you receive from your support group can't protect you from the bum rush, which is a really, really funny line. Imagining a support group for, you know, sad rappers who are recovering from battling LP and the Indelibles. And also it brings to mind Fight Club, doesn't it? But that didn't come out for another 2 years after this. More lyrics about bucking the trends. Your insanity is my clarity, not to mention convention is a great war weapon, disguised under the guise of institutionalism, but still prison, the bad batch of jism. I love that. Convention is a great war weapon. That's a great observation about propaganda and conformity. You know, the pressure to adhere to any kind of conventions, whether it's ideological conventions or artistic conventions, is a big part of any system perpetuating itself, breeding willing conformity among everyone. And so, again, when I first heard this group, I could just really tell that these minds of theirs were super active and alert and woke in the original sense of the word to the way the game is played and the way they want to create their own rules. And the back half of LP's verse is just incredible.
Who
stand too far. That's when the DJ calls like the ass crack. On the rack, I keep tabs like Timothy Leary and or ASCAP. The iron lung is non-rustable, you're overrated.
On the whack, I keep tabs like Timothy Leary and or ASCAP. I think I even caught that on the first listen, but it takes you a few seconds to figure it out. On the whack, I keep tabs. Okay, so I keep my eye on, I keep a close watch on the whack, right? The people who don't measure up to our standards, the people who can't compete with us. The whack, I don't need to tell you what the whack means. I keep tabs on them like Timothy Leary, as in tabs of acid, and or ASCAP, the music publishing or licensing company that keeps tabs on radio play of songs, right? They track airplay to calculate royalties. So just an incredibly dense kind of lyric. The iron lung is non-rustable. That's just classic LP. He's not going to say it's stainless. It's non-rustable. You're overrated, as in smoking dust. So he's saying smoking PCP, angel dust, that's overrated. And so is signing contracts that haven't been thoroughly debated. Another music industry reference. So even when he's just casually kind of almost free associating, it's like he's got this independent mantle on his mind constantly. They're constantly driving home the point that the way they're doing things is different from everyone else, and that gives them a unique leg up on every other rapper in the game. And then this great line.
Got my name up in your mouth like cockage and dividers when every rhyme becomes the official new blueprint for wannabe writers. Catch a smack to the face on principle. Even when I say nothing, it's a beautiful use of negative space. Detrimental is invincible. LP, don't forget the fucking name. Come on, Columbo, I know you figure this shit out. Nobody sounds the same. It gives me great pleasure when true elements get together.
That's incredible. The cocker gingivitis line, and every rhyme becomes the official new blueprint for wannabe writers. You can hear him even speeding up his cadence to get in these incredible lines by the end of his verse because he can feel it coming. And then he actually eases up on the throttle just a little bit towards the end. He gives you a bit of space. Catch a smack to the face on principle. And he pauses there. And that's quite a line. Even when I say nothing, it's a beautiful use of negative space, which many people have, called just one of the greatest lines in hip hop history. I love it. It's, he's saying anything I do, even when I'm leaving silent space, I'm doing it artistically. I'm doing it beautifully. It's a beautiful use of negative space. Indelibles is invincible. And there's your rhyme with principle. LP, don't forget the fucking name. And then, come on, Columbo, I know you figured this shit out. Nobody sounds the same. Little television detective reference there. I don't have so much to say about Big Justice verse. I mean, it's great. It's dope. I love the line, the way it starts is so great. It gives me great pleasure when true elements get together and lace the track rough enough to withstand any type of weather. Well, that sums it up, doesn't it? It gives us great pleasure too when these four incredibly unique and talented rappers get together and they lace the track rough enough to withstand any type of weather. If you want it, I got it. Chemically hemming up the seeds with a poly-epoxy type mixture that be fatal if you sniff it. I mean, what are you even going to do with someone with this level of linguistic resourcefulness? You got to just sit back and almost laugh. It's delightful, and it's fucking scary too. And the last song I want to talk about is a real standout on this album. It's a real standout in hip hop history. It's the first time I can remember hearing in such detail about domestic abuse in a song, and really told from the child's perspective. It's called Last Good Sleep. LP has talked about just how meaningful it was, how difficult it was to write this song, but how cathartic it was, finally letting go of this traumatic past he'd been carrying since a kid when his stepfather would regularly beat his mom up severely. And LP on the podcast What Had Happened Was with Open Mike Eagle, season 2, which I highly recommend, talks about, how he was nervous, I think, to play this song for his mother. But when he finally did, she hugged him for a long time and just thanked him. And so it was a very meaningful thing and a great example of how art can be a way to channel even the most difficult life experiences into something cathartic and even healing. The song starts with a partial hook. At night, I cover my ears in tears. The man downstairs must have drank too many beers, but one day you'll pay. So that makes you think, okay, it's about domestic abuse, and this is his, his revenge, his vindication against the man who abused his mother. But actually, if you listen to the entire hook, which we hear after the first verse,
That's why at night I cover my ears in tears. The man downstairs must have drank too many beers. Now every night of my life he beats his wife.
so that isn't as vindictive, is it? It's not as triumphant. At night, I cover my ears in tears. The man downstairs must have drank too many beers. Now, every night of my life, he beats his wife until the day I die. And that captures something about trauma, actually, that my father and I write about in our new book, which is coming out September 13th from Penguin Random House. It's called The Myth of Normal, Trauma, Illness, and Healing in a Toxic Culture. It's my dad's ideas, his work, but I was the co-writer on it. I helped him form the book and express his thoughts. And a core idea in it is that trauma is not what happens to you. It's the way that leaves a scar or an injury on your nervous system going forward into the future. So the man may be, in LP's past, but he says, now every night of my life, he beats his wife until the day I die. The man hasn't gone anywhere. He's still lodged in the psyche of this former child. And LP has talked about how that was the case until he released this song, and then the nightmares went away. And much of the song really is about his own relationship to what was happening. Who can blame a woman like her, singular parent? LP will never phrase something in the conventional way, right? Convention is a great war weapon. So he doesn't say single parent, singular parent, which is, it's very evocative, right? She wasn't just single, she was singular, she was unique, and she was alone. One love already dissolved and the solution left polluted. Two kids with a father who broke out as resoluted. So this father left really on purpose. So fuck it, she needed love and you provided false clout, stomping on the bottom man, and I wish she just walked out. Knew you were Jekyll, the stepfather. That's the second reference to Dr. Jekyll on the album, this time very different. Bit my tongue on the issue. Next to stormy weather and forced tolerance, but secretly vexed. Wish I would have spoke on it, but why deny the bliss? Moms with a new husband, casting needles, puncture pressure, briefly lifted the guilt from a divorce, snuffing her pleasure. Now you're all up in the family tree, come broken nuclear, with termites corroded in your veins and elected to drown the pain, but the pain couldn't quite die with a thrown back whiskey sour, Puritan, crushing moms between rocks for witching hours. The Puritans in America's early days would punish witches by, or women they accused of being witches, by crushing their bodies between stones. So, he is full of associations here, and it really is nightmarish. You can get inside the world of this child who's aware that his mother needs this man in a sense, and he thinks, well, who am I to step in and stop it? And, he's at odds with himself because he can hear the abuse his mom's taking. And of course, he himself is only a child. Later in the song, there's an internal dialogue where he's castigating himself. He says,
should have reacted to that, but I didn't know the extent, please. Could have caught him in time. Yeah, that thoughts occurred to me constantly. Goblin digging my head and I don't know what he wants of me. To one of us is dead, I suppose.
This constant back and forth, which is another imprint of the trauma. There's an inability to let go of it and a blaming of oneself, as so many children do in these situations. More of it in the last verse. You should have known what happened. I was young and oblivious. He almost killed your mom. If I knew I could have done something. You'll never see him again. Yeah, but I see him every night and cover my ears in tears as he beats his fucking wife. It is a devastating and very bold record to release, and truly ahead of its time. I mean, we have Kendrick Lamar now putting out his most recent album, Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers, which is explicitly about trauma. It's about transformation and healing. So LP was ahead of his time. I guess Ghostface Killah in the same year put out All That I Got Is You, which detailed some of the travails of his childhood, but through a more sentimental lens. This song is as bleak as it comes, but you can tell it's also cathartic because he's just telling the honest truth. So it really stands out among the rest of the album, which is mostly about bragging and boasting and showing and proving. This is a rare moment of vulnerability for LP, and we'd see more of it on his solo projects in the coming decade or so. Fantastic Damage, I'll Sleep When You're Dead, and Cancer for Cure. And then with Run the Jewels, he got back to the braggadocio, but still sometimes him and Killer Mike will touch on some pretty gnarly topics as well. Okay, I think that does it. I mean, there's so much more to discuss with this album, but I want to leave you some to discover for yourself. Like I said, leave a comment below. What are your favorite moments on Funcrusher Plus? What are your favorite LP joints, your favorite Run the Jewels joints? And this whole backpack rap, independent as fuck, raucous records era, what's your connection to it? If you're young and you're just encountering this for the first time, what's your first impression? I'm looking forward to hearing from you in the comments below. Like, subscribe, and I will see you next time. Until then, I'm Daniel Maté saying, I've got lyrics to go, and this channel is independent as fuck, and now you are too.
Not needed to cause a racket. Or from the menace, my words speak for themselves, so feel me. Cause on the mic, I've got more presence than attendance in the class of schizophrenics here. Straight adapting of raps, intoxicating, got your craving, my living proof. Mixture of speech and rhyme. Toe up from just the flow, but past the liquor, it's over. Any deadly when twisted, I get open like Asian line.
Company flow, the fire in which you burn slow. I remain indelible. Stay trend juggernaut. The touch the flame, you are not. I remain indelible. Check, 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 check. I ain't on digital slides, but when I'm worth alongside four terrible surgeons who blow common perspectives on what and how to get lit. That's flaming Molotov shit. Let's stop with my identities and movable all in space split. This no germ got his own prisons in the contact. Walking on 5 lines, doing this, we grow way beyond corporate control. Let them be kingers, introduce myself as a mistake. Slip through the grills with a straight and raw stuff. Sharp in the gut. That ain't gonna all become one of the flies when it's in the disease of the minds. Loaded up like tribes to destruct you get set but dead eyes. The fight back and duck empty the fuck up in your touch. The group punch you with 6 meals of poker can protect you from the bum rush. I'm on the slip on sitting Mickey.